Hey everyone, Rich Gasway here. Just a quick reminder that all the SA Matters show episodes are now available on YouTube, in addition to iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play. Some of the guests I interview here who have near-miss stories to tell sometimes have video clips that they want to share, and it just wasn't a good format to do that in the audio-only podcast. So now all the episodes are on YouTube. Before we kick off this episode, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the live virtual training that is now available. How does it work? For agencies that may not be able to afford to host a live classroom event, I'll come to your organization live via the internet and train all of your members on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making processes. It's sort of like a webinar, but it's live, real time, and we actually have discussions right in the classroom, but it's all over the internet. For less than $1,000, you can train all of your members on situational awareness. Virtual training truly is the easiest and most affordable way to train your team on this important topic. If you want to learn more about virtual training, just visit the samatters.com website and click on the orange box on the right side of the home page labeled Virtual Training Programs. If you want to talk to me about these programs, just click on the Contact Us tab on the home page and I'll give you a call. Okay, that's enough of the announcements. Roll that SA Matters show intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 214 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I've been sharing the message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making at conferences for individual organizations for more than 13 years now, and have trained over 66,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. This message truly is for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-stress environment. I'm dedicated to improving your safety and your survival, and I'm here to give you a message of hope and a message of inspiration, and to help you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, today I'm coming to you from my office in Minnesota. I just returned from delivering 2 situational awareness programs, one presented to the International Women in Fire Emergency Services Conference in Virginia, and a keynote I delivered for the New Brunswick Fire Chiefs Association in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'm glad to be home now for a few days with my family before I head to Nevada to present at the Fire Rescue Med Conference. This is my first time at this conference, so I'm really excited for the opportunity to make some new friends in the Fire Rescue Med community. Okay, in today's feature segment, it's part 1 of a 2-part interview with a near-miss survivor who thought he was going to a small electrical fire that was turned out to be a lot more than he bargained for. In fact, if the circumstances were just slightly different, he very easily could have been killed. But before I get into that interview, let me take a moment to talk about the Supervisory Development Institute. Some of you know my second passion after situational awareness is helping to develop the leadership skills of supervisors, something I didn't do a very good job of when I was a boss. I was guilty of promoting supervisors before they were prepared to lead others, and that was my fault. And then I got frustrated at them when they didn't know how to provide good leadership to those on their team and how to resolve personnel issues, and that was my fault too. So I created the Supervisor Development Institute. This program is customizable to run anywhere from 2 days to a full week, and no matter the length, there's no PowerPoint. Yeah, that's right, no PowerPoint. Can you imagine a week-long class that doesn't use PowerPoint? Is that even possible? Not only is it possible, but it's a better way to learn skills of essential leadership. When adults are engaged in the process of learning and not just being lectured to, learning can be fun. And the more important thing is, the lessons stick. This program shares practical, actionable best practices for leadership, problem solving, conflict resolution, teamwork, communications, motivation, accountability, generational leadership, discipline, coaching for performance improvement, and more. If you're interested in learning more about this program on how to teach supervisors to do their job differently and better, and how to hold employees accountable, contact me. One of the questions I get asked a lot by readers and listeners of the blog and this show is, when are you coming to my area, or where are you going to be next? Those are great questions, and I've made the answers really easy to find out. There's a link on the homepage of the SA Matters website. On the right side, it's a blue box labeled Live Training Dates. I changed the name of it. It used to be Upcoming Dates. Now it's called Live Training Dates. And there you can see all the upcoming programs. So if you want to attend one, you'll know when one is coming near you. In today's feature segment, it's part one of a two-part interview with Chicopee Fire Department Deputy Chief Dave Beauregard. On May 15, 2015, Deputy Chief Dave Beauregard responded to a report of an electrical fire that was reported to already be out in an industrial facility on Meadow Street in Chicopee, Massachusetts. Chief Beauregard discusses how his complacency contributed to a near miss that, if circumstances were just slightly different, it could have killed him. Okay, let's jump into part one of our interview with Deputy Fire Chief Dave Beauregard. Chief Beauregard is a 52-year-old father of a 25-year-old daughter, and he's been married for 31 years. He's served 12 years in the military, 6 years active duty in the Navy, and 6 years as a naval reservist. Dave works at what he calls a medium-sized city, Chicopee, Massachusetts. It has 56,000 residents. Dave describes it as an old mill town in western Massachusetts. The city sits on the Connecticut River, bordering Springfield, Mass. To the south. For a point of reference, they're about 30 miles north of Hartford, Connecticut. The fire department has 147 uniformed, all-career civil service firefighters. Of those, 5 are deputy chiefs, of which Dave is one of those. There are 14 captains, 24 lieutenants, and 103 firefighters. They staff 6 fire stations with 6 engine companies, 2 ladder companies, and 2 full-time basic life support ambulances. Dave was appointed a firefighter in 1994 and was promoted to be a lieutenant in 2000. In 2007, he was promoted again to captain, where he served as a line officer, training officer, and safety officer. In 2017, Dave was promoted to deputy chief and currently serves as the department's executive officer. In March of this year, I presented a program for the University of Maryland's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program. And during that class, some of the students got a chance to share near-miss stories. And Dave shared his. And it was so good and so compelling that I asked him if he'd be willing to come on the show and share his story. So let's start by learning a little bit about Dave's department and the kind of services that they provide.
A city of approximately 56,000. We provide an EMS service of 2 basic ambulances. We run 6 stations, 6 fire engines, 2 ladder trucks. We staff our each shift has 35 members. 1 deputy chief and usually 3 captains on shift. We have 4 deputy chiefs, 1 per shift. I'm a 5th deputy. I am the executive officer for the department. It's an old mill town. We have everything that ranges from heavy mill construction to current lightweight. We have 2 rivers that come through the community. We have the Connecticut River and the Chicopee River. So we have water rescue issues. We have geographically in the center of our community is the largest Air Force Reserve base in the country, Westover Air Force Base, which is 2,500 acres.
Dave went on to tell me that the city is about 30 miles north of Hartford, Connecticut. It borders Springfield, Massachusetts, and it's about 80 miles west of Boston, to give you the landmark. And then I asked him, what's the on-duty staffing levels?
Basis, we run 3 in an engine, 2 on a ladder, and again, we have the shift commander. When we respond to a call, we respond with 2 engines, a ladder, and a deputy. So we'll respond with a minimum of 9. And depending on the call comes in, we may boost that up. We may call for extra resources if we're getting multiple calls that we have, or somebody's very specific. My kitchen is on fire or something like that, where we believe that extra resources would be necessary. But if we were just going to a either normal box alarm or a report of type of call, an investigative response would be typically 9.
Dave went on to share with me that the call volume for that particular day was nothing out of the ordinary. They ran about 7 to 8 calls, and the weather was good. There was nothing particularly challenging about the day. And then that led us up to the discussion about this particular event.
This call came in just after midnight.
Okay. And were you guys in bed by then?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's usually the worst time of the night for me because it's right after I went to bed. So that's usually when, and I think that was part of it, part of my response, because I was still a little bit groggy maybe.
Yeah. All right. So a little bit after midnight, how does the call come in? What are they reported as?
A call comes in as we had alarm sounding at Callaway Manufacturing. They manufacture golf balls at this facility. They said that they had gotten some phone calls that it was an electrical fire, but the fire was out.
Dave went on to explain that this facility used to be the world headquarters for Spalding, and they used to make a lot of different sporting goods at this facility. But now the facility is only used for manufacturing golf balls for Callaway. And Dave said that process is a very complex and dangerous process. He said there's a lot of chemicals, polymers, oxidizers, and plastics used in the creation of a golf ball. And that this type of facility can bring some special challenges for the fire department.
Just a lot of chemicals that go into the construction of a golf ball. And we go there quite a bit for a lot of different reasons. Anything from the forklifts hitting sprinkler heads to medical calls, and even, something setting off the smoke alarm. So it's something that we're very familiar with going there.
Dave tells me that the company employs about 400, but on the night shift, the night of that incident, there were about 100 people working. And I realized that I introduced Dave as the deputy chief, but I realized now, after getting into the story, that he actually had not been promoted yet to deputy chief. He was still working as a captain.
I'm the station captain, so I respond on Engine 5. We also had a ladder assigned to our station, Station 5. So we had Engine 5, Ladder 5 responding. We're just around the corner from the station. It's probably 30 to a 45-second response time.
Okay. Couple that with grogginess, and you can
the fact that, again, we were responding to what we were told was an electrical fire, and that it was out. So, and this is where it starts right then it starts to go a little bit sideways, because here we are, it's the middle of the night, complacency starts descending. It's okay, here we go. We already know it's an electrical fire, and it's out. So we're just really kind of, mindset is just going to check this out. So we roll up. Again, this is a huge building. There's kind of, because over the years they built on to the manufacturing facility, it's kind of a odd-shaped building in the sense that you have a lot of angles to it.
Dave went on to explain that the size of the building and the configuration of the building added to the complexity of the call. As we sometimes call the buildings the A side, the B side, C side, D side, Dave said there's so many angles and so many times that this building has been added on to that it really becomes difficult to gain and maintain an orientation.
Very, very strange shaped building, because, they just can compartmentalize as they needed it. And because Spalding was a very old company.
Mm-hmm.
So you had some heavy mill construction there. Then you had some lightweight truss. And you had some steel trusses, and you had some office space in there. You had some manufacturing. So we that night we roll up, and my radio on scene. I give my directions I take command. I radio to the other responding units we had pre-assigned staging for the apparatus. We roll into the parking lot, and the employee entrance and visitor entrance is on, if you're looking at the building, it would be on the right side, or what we would consider the Delta side. Yeah, that's probably maybe 150 feet or so, this side of the building. Then it angles, parallels the street, so it would be another A side, and then that goes on for probably 300-400 feet. So we roll up. I let the deputy chief that's coming from across town let everybody know I'm investigating.
So Dave is met at the front door by the night shift supervisor. He doesn't seem too worked up about things, and he says, we've had a electrical fire, but we've got it extinguished, and he's going to escort Dave back to where the fire was.
Not a big deal.
Essentially, Dave's thinking, all right, so I can see what it was and make sure it's out and gather the information for the report. But he's definitely of the mindset that this is really no big deal.
We have okay, not a big deal. My radio, the responding units, this is what we got. We're going in investigating. We have a policy that, you call out what side is going to be the A side, specifically for these kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm just going in to investigate something that's already out. So this is no big deal. It's an electrical fire. And he also told me that he already shut down the electrical power to it. So this is no big deal. It's electrical. They disconnected the energy, and it's already out. Just going to take a look at it. So this is really when it starts to go bad.
So Dave says that he and his fellow firefighters start to walk down a long corridor with the night shift manager. And he says he's not really paying attention to how far in they're going or what direction they're going. In fact, Dave says he thinks that they're heading in the direction of the D side of the building, which he says later on is going to come back to be an important part of the story. And he says, so they're walking along, and the manager is saying, we had a problem. It started around 9 o'clock tonight.
What happened? He goes, yeah, it started about 9 o'clock, and we had some issues, but okay, great, not a thing.
We think we've got it out, but it's been going on for a couple 3 hours, so we figured we'd just have the fire department come and check it out.
We walked so far, so I'm just chit-chatting, and I'm not paying attention to what's around me because there's really no reason to. I'm just going in there. Now, this was also a building that we knew we had radio transmission problems in, just because of the way the building was built. This was a known issue.
It's important to acknowledge here that Dave knows that they don't have radio communications from inside that building. As they're trying to communicate out, no one's answering. Dispatch or the other units on the scene or the chief officer that's responding. But all the while, he just continues on, moving his way in to the area where the problem is.
I think I'm actually at the end of the building.
Okay.
Up against the wall. I find out later that it's actually set right in the middle of the manufacturing plant.
Wow.
Again, this is, it's almost 1 million square feet. So, you're just walking, not really, again, this is where, I just kind of really wasn't paying attention just because, again, I just kind of got into that, became complacent. Just going to an electrical fire that's out, not a big deal, just making sure. So this room has the those plastic drape curtain door, and there's a little bit of smoke coming out of there, and kind of again, and he's explaining, yeah, we had some problems with this, but I shut down the electrical, and this is a big steel cabinet. Big steel cabinet, probably 6 feet high, probably, 2 or 3 feet deep, about the size of an industrial electrical panel. Okay. Again, not really, really giving it much thought.
By Dave's own admission, he's being pretty complacent about things. But then all of a sudden, he notices something out of the corner of his eye that changes his whole perspective.
As we're standing there talking, all of a sudden I see some flames coming out of the corner of the door that he had shut. I said, okay, he had set up some dry chem, and I said, okay, some dry chemical extinguishers. And I told my jump seat guy, I said, mask up. Let's take care of this. In the meantime, I radioed the deputy that had arrived on scene, and I said, I had the engine 3 which was with us. I said, take up position at the hydrant, ladder 5, come around. I thought I was on the delta side. I said, come around to the delta side of the building, because that's where I thought I was. Just preparing that, the fire might not be out. So I tell the jump seat guy, let's, mask up. Let's grab those dry chems, go on air. I said, you ready? He says, yeah, I'm ready. I said, okay.
So he and his partner, they grab a couple of dry chem extinguishers, and they mask up, and they're going to go in and they're going to open this cabinet up and see what the source of this flame is.
A lot of heat. We hit this thing, and it's just glowing orange. Hit it, knock it down, waiting for the dry chem to dissipate. And now all of a sudden, this isn't, see no electrical circuits in this or anything. So I yelled back to the supervisor, and I said, what's in here? What is it? What is it? And he says, it's electrical. It's electrical. I said, no. I said, what's in here? What is this? And he said, oh, it's a dryer.
So when Dave's told it's a dryer, it's like an epiphany. This is not electrical equipment. This is some kind of a device to dry something. He immediately calls out to the deputy chief to request additional resources and to tell them where he's at and what he has going on. But his radio transmissions are not reaching the chief, and the responses from the chief are nothing but a bunch of garbled traffic, and Dave can't understand what he's saying back to him.
It's coming in broken up. But okay, we got this thing under control, but a lot of smoke is pouring out of this thing. So I'm trying to get a little bit more information on what's going on here.
What color is the smoke?
What's that? Well, the color of the smoke was white.
Okay.
So I shut the door, and I'm trying to talk to the supervisor about what exactly is going on here. What is in here?
Dave explains to me that companies like Spalding and Callaway are very protective of their corporate secrets and concerned for espionage of the practices and processes that they use. So the manager does not want to be very forthcoming with the information about what exactly is going on.
I see some, flames popping out again. I said, you ready, Todd? Yep. Open it up, hit it. And I said, okay, maybe it's just heat hasn't really dissipated in there. So I leave the door open. Still trying to get some more information because the night shift manager's, he's at the other end of the room outside the door as I'm yelling back to him. It's getting really, really hot. He said, okay, we've got it in an oven. It's contained. It's where we want it. Let's kind of regroup here. I'm going to just shut the door, radio the deputy, sends another engine. Let's just get this squared away.
So Dave decides he's going to shut the door and try to keep it contained within that unit. So he closes the door and he latches the bottom latch, and then he reaches up to latch the top latch, and it won't latch. Something's wrong. It's malfunctioning. Something. The top latch isn't working.
So I kind of turn my back to radio the deputy what we have. You need to send, start some more units till we figure out what's going on.
So after he radios for some more help, he looks back at the cabinet and he sees some flame coming out of the top corner of the cabinet. He decides he needs to close the top latch on that door and try to get it to stay closed.
Try to relatch that top latch. And that's when that whole oven exploded. And this, the best way I describe it, it was with such force and violence. It threw me across the room. It probably threw me about 5 or 6 feet.
I asked Dave how good his memory was of the things that were happening in the moment as they were happening.
The only thing I remember about the incident is when I touched it, all of a sudden I hear you hear that, but there's that pause and it, kaboom, and I just saw this flash of orange. My jump seat guy, he sees, because he had gone back to the door to grab another dry chem. He sees what happened. Oh my God, he hits the flames back, and he's asking me, "You okay? You okay?" At this point, the best way I describe it is the opening scene from Saving Private Ryan, where I was just dazed and I could hear everything that was going on, but I couldn't respond.
For those who are listening to the audio-only version of this, at this point in the interview, Dave became pretty shook up.
And I remember thinking at the time, if you can get up, you're okay. And I couldn't get up. As the way I'd fallen, I hit the crate, and I had kind of ended up in like a squatting position, and I couldn't stand up. And Todd is trying to help me, and he's calling for a mayday, and that's not getting out. And I had to.
Dave is very conscientious of the fact that he can't get up, and it's bothering him, and he's not really sure how bad he's hurt. And he makes his way over to that pallet, and he gets himself finally up onto his knees.
The only thing that's going through my mind at the time is to survive. That's the only thing, is survive. So even though he's talking to me, I can't, or I'm not responding to him. I'm finally able to get to my knees. He helps me, and I'm able to crawl to the door. Once I'm outside at the door, I started calling a mayday. And at this time, I see nobody knew where we were. We find out later, once we started debriefing, everything that was going on outside, everything that was going on inside, and how really bad this had really become. So we get to the door and of this room, and then all of a sudden, I see a bunch of guys from the other apparatus coming to our aid.
Had the Mayday call reached them?
No. The only way they knew what was going on was because they had heard Todd talking on the radio, and they knew, because he's just a very quiet guy, they knew if he was on the radio, something bad had happened.
Oh.
So I had told them previously that I was heading, I was in the, once we got to that room, I said, I'm on the Delta side. And that's where I said, here I am on the Delta side, ladder 5, come around to the Delta side, engine 5, come around to the Charlie side, and engine 3, prepare to lay a line, stand at the hydrant.
So I asked Dave if the other firefighters coming in knew that there had been an explosion. He said later, when he talked to the dispatcher, bits and pieces of the radio traffic was coming through, and one of the pieces of radio traffic was from Dave's partner. Dave described his partner as a quiet person who would never talk on the radio, so as soon as they heard his voice on the radio, they knew something bad had happened. And they had also heard the word explosion, but they didn't hear it in full context as to what it meant. And that's when the deputy chief mobilized the other resources.
And I guess the word, he doesn't know what's going on, but he knows and he senses that something bad has happened. So now there's kind of panic that starts to set in. And what made it worse, and I actually use this because I teach at the fire academy, and I'm the State Fire Academy in Massachusetts. I teach rapid intervention. And so I know, and I teach the skills for Mayday situations, and we have a class, Saving Ourselves, about setting off your pass device, calling Mayday and giving your location identification problem. And when the situation came, I said, I just, all that kind of stuff went out the window, because again, all I was thinking about was, first of all, I can't even communicate. And second, okay, I just need to crawl, and I need to get out of this situation, and I'll deal with that part later.
All right, that concludes part 1 of my interview with Deputy Chief Dave Beauregard. Thank you, Dave, for your courage to share your near-miss story with the listeners and viewers of this show. Please consider coming back next week and listening to part 2 as Dave tells the rest of this compelling story. I have a favor to ask of you, the listeners and the viewers of this show. The primary reason I created this show was to provide a platform for those who've experienced near-miss events to tell their stories, just like Dave's doing. If you've experienced or witnessed a near-miss event and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, contact me through the SA Matters website. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near-miss event could save someone else's life. That's powerful. I want to share a bit of feedback I received from from somebody who took my online academy. As a matter of fact, this feedback came via Twitter. It says, "Hey Rich, I've been putting your SA Matters Online Academy lessons to good use. I find myself routinely walking away from everyone on the fire ground as the IC and doing my own quick mental review of what is working, what is not working, what we should be doing, and what we shouldn't be doing. You've changed the way I look at emergency scenes, and for that I thank you, Captain John," and I'll hold his last name because he didn't respond to my request to share this publicly, but Captain John from a fire department in Ohio. So thank you, John, for that awesome feedback. Speaking of Ohio, I'll be in Ohio in July for the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference, and I'm going to be doing 4 programs there. So I hope you swing by and say hello, John. If you want to send me feedback, you can do that through any of my social media channels, or you can click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage. Okay, as I always do, I want to take a moment to thank those companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted situational awareness training for their team members. I do this to show my appreciation to those who've put forth the time and the effort to organize, advertise, and fund great training on this important topic. Recent tour stops have included Georgia Pacific Corporation in Madison, Georgia, the Spruce Grove Fire Department in Spruce Grove, Alberta, the West Virginia Public Safety Expo in Charleston, West Virginia, Paramedic Services of Illinois in Chicago, the Greensburg Fire Department in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, Temperature Specialists in St. Francis, Minnesota, and where I just returned from, the I Women's Conference in Tysons, Virginia, and the New Brunswick Fire Chiefs Conference in Fredericton, New Brunswick. If you're interested in where the Situational Awareness Matters tour is going to be upcoming, the tour stops that are on the schedule at this point are June 13th, Fire Rescue Med in Henderson, Nevada, July 6th, Kansas Gas Company in Overland Park, Kansas, July 9 to 11, Georgia Pacific OSB facility in Hosford, Florida, July 14th and 15th, the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference in Columbus, Ohio. July 19 through 27, Syncrude Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. August 3 and 4, the Evansville Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana. August 10 and 11, Fire Rescue International, Dallas, Texas. August 12 and 13, Northwest Fire District in Houston, Texas. August 13 to 16, Missouri City Fire Department in Missouri City, Texas. August 18th, the Waukee Firefighters Association just outside of Des Moines, Iowa. August 21 through 24, back at the Syncrude Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. If you're interested in seeing all the locations of the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events, just head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. The program schedule is always changing, so check back often. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event, you can just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the homepage. There are over 80 situational awareness programs already scheduled in 2018, and I'm already scheduling programs in 2019 too. So just a heads up, there's only a few dates available yet for 2018. So if you're interested in booking something for this year or in 19, now's the time to get a hold of me. If you're interested in saving some money, you can consider hosting a companion program. Those are programs on adjoining dates to other programs that I'm doing. So if you see I'm within a couple hours of where you're located and you want to be a companion and save some money, then reach out to me. I have some great staff. They'll make the whole process super easy for you, I promise. If you're inspired to want to learn best practices about how to improve your situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, then you may want to get connected with me and become part of the mission of the SA Matters community. There's several ways you can do that. There are over 75,000 people connected with us here through our newsletter, membership, podcast subscriptions, YouTube subscriptions, and followers on our social media feeds like Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It is through these channels that we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve skills in critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Let's start with the newsletter. The newsletter is completely free. The newsletter comes to you by email once a month, and it contains featured content from more than 400 articles from the SA Matters blog and more than 200 podcast episodes from the SA Matters show. And we share videos from our over 300 videos on the SA Matters TV YouTube channel. Occasionally in the newsletter, we'll also share with the subscribers some discounts for books, videos, virtual training, the online academy, and live events. And those specials are exclusively for newsletter subscribers. The newsletter truly is the best way for us to stay in touch with each other. Now, there are two ways you can subscribe to the newsletter. First, if you're in the United States and you have a smartphone, you can simply text SA Matters to 22828. That's the letter S as in Sam, the letter A as in Adam, and the word matters, all together, SA Matters to 22828. Be sure to watch your autocorrect on your phone because it might try to change the word SA Matters to something else. If you do it right, you'll get a text message back to enter your email address in, and that's it. You'll be signed up for the newsletter. Now, I know not everybody has smartphones, and there's some people that don't like to do the texting thing, and some of you are not located in the United States. In that case, you can swing by the samatters.com website and click on the red box on the right side of the homepage that says free membership. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can just search for SA Matters Radio on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching SA Matters TV, all one word, on YouTube. And you can follow the SA Matters page on Facebook. On Twitter, you can follow @RichGasaway. And on LinkedIn, you can search for Rich Gasaway. Now, finally, I have one request. The SA Matters show and the SA Matters TV YouTube channel have been blessed to enjoy over 800,000 downloads, and views. That makes this show officially the longest running, fastest growing, independently operated, safety focused show on the internet. And I'm looking for an additional sponsor. So if you know a company that might be interested in advertising their product or service on this show, ask them to contact me through the website. Well, that's it. Episode 214 is complete. Thank you again to my guest, Chicopee Deputy Fire Chief Dave Beauregard, for sharing the first half of your near-miss story. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all of the organizations that have hosted live, virtual, internet-based training programs. Thank you to the more than 2,000 students and graduates of the acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. But most importantly, thank you, the listeners and the viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there. And may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.